All right, so we're on Unit 3. We're going to talk about the critical thinking questions. These are just like critical thinking that you've had Unit 1 and 2. For these to get full credit, I don't want one-word answers. You need to answer these in at least 2 sentences for each one. And I don't want to know what Google knows. I want to know your thoughts. So critical thinking is just where you think of how to solve a problem. You think of your answers. So, number 1, do you have experience growing your own food by helping out with a family or community garden? So, have you ever grown anything in a garden? Um, any sort of experience at all? Did you find this more rewarding than buying food at the store? And did the food taste better? And be honest. If you have not, tell me, do you think it would be more rewarding? Why or why not? Personally, I can say yes, it is more rewarding. If you've ever had a summer tomato, homegrown, it tastes so much more fresh, and the flavor is way better in your own personal garden. And it tastes a lot better because you did all the work, just like anything. If you do the work, the reward is that much sweeter. Number 2, most inventions appear when they are greatly needed. Why do you think it took so long for the wheel to be invented as compared to other innovations? So that's something to think about. One thing to think about is they were really busy surviving for their lives at this point. The conditions were a lot harder. They didn't have all the conveniences that we had, time to sit and think up these inventions. Um, so that really played a role into it. All right, number 3. What are some ways that the transition to ag affected other areas of human life? Remember, we talked about how agriculture, people weren't having to scrimp and save for their food. They weren't having to hunt and gather anymore. They were able to stay and grow their own food, and that allowed them to start building communities, and that ended up leading into civilizations. So it really impacted human life in a great way. Number 4, imagine living in a world where you could only access food that were grown in your region or state. Do you know what food would be included? What food would you miss most? So we live in Texas. Luckily, that's a large state, but you can even break it up into region by what part of Texas you're from. So I'm in North Texas. So I would have access to wheat. So that would be bread. I could eat flour, bread. I could have corn. We grow cotton, so I could have some clothes. We don't really do well with fruit trees. It's hit or miss. We have some pears and things like that. And garden food, so tomatoes. In the wintertime, though, we'd be pretty strapped for healthy, green options. What I miss most would probably be avocados. I love or chocolate. Chocolate would be a big one. Or coffee. There's several. The rating discusses fair trade ag products such as chocolate and coffee. Would you be willing to pay more for fair trade goods? Why or why not? So remember, fair trade is that those developing countries, they're grown in great conditions, they have good working conditions, and they're paid a fair price for it. So personally, yes, I would, because that means that that product has come from a good background. It's come from some good ethics that we talked about earlier. If you have any questions, remember, come to live sessions or book a one-on-one with me to help you with your work.